Now let's take a look at some other types of post effects you can do with compositing. But understand that this is extremely subjective. There's no right or wrong with some of these effects. It's just a matter of personal preference. We can start with a bit of color correction. We've already dabbled a little bit with it, but under Color, Adjust, you'll see there's a pretty good variety of different tools for adjusting colors. A popular one is Color Balance. Let's just drop it in line and let Blender move the output nodes for us. Color Balance consists of color wheel adjustments to the lift, gamma, and gain of your image. And in a way, you can think of that as the darks, the midtones, and the brights. If we shift the lift a little towards blue, you can see all the shadowy areas shift towards dark blue. And the gain, let's shift that towards something warmer like yellow. You can see the whites of the image kind of take on a yellow cast. Don't be afraid to get in there and experiment with color correction. Try out the different nodes and see what works for you. RGB curves is a good one, hue correct, hue saturation value. There's so many ways to adjust color. And if you don't like what's happening, just delete the node. Now let's set up an effect called a vignette. The purpose of a vignette is to draw attention to a certain area of the image. Let's add a mask for this effect. Shift A, Mask, and choose the ellipse mask. Control Shift click on it and you can see it's just a rounded white shape. I'm going to adjust the width and the height to make it a bit larger. And maybe shift it a little bit in X to put it right over where the guitar is. And then let's add a blur node directly after it. The X and Y values adjust the blur horizontally and vertically, so let's set those both to something very high, like 500. Grab another mix color node, drop it in, and plug the mask into the second socket. Well, that's not very impressive. But let's switch the blend mode to multiply. Now we've got something. Let's bring the factor down to, say, 0.5. Not very noticeable now. Let's try 0.7. Yeah, that's pretty good. Subtle, but certainly there. You can certainly experiment with different blend modes as well, and depending on the colors and values of your image, you may get a very unexpected but very cool result. Another image treatment we'll take a look at is the lens distortion node. Under Transform, you'll see it there near the bottom. This node brings in a bit of real-world camera imperfections. First, let's try turning up the distortion a little bit, maybe 0.5. Whoa, that's way too far. But it gives you a great idea of what the distortion does. It distorts the image, lessening that distortion towards the center, in the same way real-world camera lenses do. We can set it to something a bit more natural, like 0.03, but now you'll see these black corners creeping in where there were no pixels to fill in what's being distorted. Just click the Fit button and it'll zoom in a little to compensate. There's also a dispersion value. Let's set that to 0.5. Again, way too high, but you can see what it's doing. This is called chromatic aberration, and it separates the red, green, and blue channels as the image gets distorted near the edges. Let's dial that back, maybe also to 0.03. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. And then let's go ahead and turn on the jitter. If I zoom in, you can see it adds a subtle film grain effect to the render. Now this vignette and lens distortion certainly start giving the image a bit of drama and realism. But what if we want to go the other way, something much less realistic and more artistic or painterly? Let's move over to our light groups node tree. Blender has a few very interesting nodes in the filter category. For example, there's a very nondescript node called filter. Let's drop that on, and by default you can see it's set to soften. While that can be useful for taking the hard, sharp detail out of a 3D render, we're going to set it on shadow. Most of these filter types it gives you do some kind of edge enhancing or contrasting. But what if we put something like a color ramp in front of it? Shift A, Color, Color Ramp. Color Ramp will make it black and white and allow you to control that range. Now when we look at the filter node, it looks a bit more like an illustration than a realistic image. And we can tweak the color ramp sliders to enhance that a bit. Let's move these out of the way and try something different. Under Filter, there's another oddly named node called Kuwahara. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Let's bring that one in. Instantly the image looks a little smudgy now, a bit artistic. Let's change from the classic mode to the anisotropic mode. Turn the sharpness down all the way and the eccentricity up all the way. That's interesting, a bit more painterly. Let's turn the size up to maybe 14. Ah, cool. See these edges that are kind of broken up? The uniformity seems to kind of control the size of that. If we set it to 2, it almost has a chalk drawing feel to it. If we crank it up to, say, 12, it has a bit of a different painting style. Maybe we can use our edge detection filter to bring back some kind of edge detail. Let's throw a filter on after the Kuwahara, but keep it positioned a bit lower. Set it to Sobel. Ah, that's pretty cool. I like how the colors are coming through. Let's blend these two styles. Grab a mix color node and connect first the Kuwahara and then the Sobel filter. Set it to add, and let's turn the factor up to 2. Very cool. It's got this brighter outline now that looks really neat. So again, these kinds of effects are optional depending on what you want to convey with your image or your animation. There's really so much more to explore with other nodes and how you put them together. I really encourage you to try things out, learn about the many different types of nodes, and see what kind of cool effects you can do.